This is Griff, who was found at Griffith Park, not the observatory, right next to the observatory. He's an unusual dog. I think he was out in the wild for quite a while on his own. I think that he might have had a broken tail or a leg or something based on his unusual. He doesn't like to sit. Most dogs I can rock back into a sit, and he will sit, but it's not on demand. And also, the other video that we have in this post-it shows him peeing, which is he does a handstand, which I've never seen a dog do before. Now, one of the problems that he has is potential separation anxiety, and it's starting to be more illustrative or more apparent now that he's kind of settled in. He's basically been adopted for 1 month today. So in this video, what I want to do is I'm going to teach him to stay, because in the first video when I was filming, the guardian was saying stay, stay, stay. I like to say stay is kind of like being pregnant. You are or you're not. There's not a stay, stay, stay. So the more we repeat a command, the less we mean it to a dog. So I thought you were going to LAY. You're going to sit? No. Well, we'll work on that later. That's why the guardian's going to work on passive training. Every time he sits, she's going to reach over and pet him and say the word sit and give him a treat if possible. So let him know that that really is something she really likes, and he's more inclined to do that. But in this video, we're going to teach him how to stay. Now, I teach to stay for 3 Ds. First for duration, then for distance, chill, and then for distractions. Most people try to do all of them at the same time. Stay, and then they walk away, and then have the dog come to you, or things like that. So what we're going to do in the first one is we're just going to do just duration. Now, I have a handful of treats here. Since he's a little guy, I'm using the tricky trainers, and I'm splitting them in half. These are very rich. We don't want to give him diarrhea or anything like that. By the way, if you're watching at home, if your dog has loose stool, Pepto-Bismol for dogs is canned pumpkin, like you would make pumpkin pie out of. So I always have 2 cans of it in my cupboard. If my dog has loose stools, I go inside, I open the can and I take 1 scoop and I put it in with their dry dog food. That will firm up the stool. All right. So for the stay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give him a stop sign motion as a stay, and I'm going to do this in small increments. We're going to start out at like 1 second, then do 3 second, then 6 second, and then 10 second. Griff. So I'm going to keep the hand with the treats down here in my lap. I'm going to say stay. 1, 2, 3. Stay. Stay. Now at this point, he doesn't know what we're doing, which is actually good. A lot of dogs will they're staring at you, and they're like, why are you not giving me the treat? Stay. So I waited for him to re-engage with me before I gave him the treat. But a lot of dogs, like my puppy, when I was teaching this, I said stay, and I waited 1 second, and at 2 seconds he started wiggling around because I'm not giving him the treat. So he's thinking that he's not doing something. This actually will make teaching him to stay easier. Stay. Stay. Now, he started to get up and move away, so I wanted to get him before he did that. Now, right there, I raised my finger to indicate when I had gotten to the point where I was going to give him the treat, but because he was looking away, I started counting beyond that, and then he started to go away. So what we want to do is right there, that was about 14 seconds. So that means that he's not ready to go to 14 seconds, so we need to back up. Now, he started staring at me at that point. First couple times he was like, look, and then look away. Now he's starting to be recognizing that more treats are coming. So I'm going to go to 12 seconds. Stay. Stay. I'm going to say the command word after the treat goes into his mouth, but pretty close to right on the cusp of it. Now, if I'm doing it, I'm keeping the treats down here and my hand signal up here, so I'm saying stay, and I'm turning to face my palm facing my chest, and then I'm counting. Now, if he started to move, what I would do is a flash lure, like this. Just a little bit of a move in my hand will keep him looking. And now, if he started to move and I give him the treat right then he thinks, like I did the first time, or this time he started to move away, then he thinks, oh, me moving away is what gets me the treat. So we want to do the flash lure, get him to stay, then we want to wait a couple seconds, then give him the treat. And again, I prefer to get the dog to look at me. Now, he can look around. He doesn't have to give me eye contact the whole time, because eventually we're going to leave the room. Griff. Stay. was 15 seconds. Now at the end, I always give the dog, I'm going to do like 5 or 10 or how many practice sessions in a row. At the end, when I'm getting ready to release, I want to give him a release word. Never use the word okay. It's a top 50 US word, commonly used word. I say break or release. So on this one, I'm going to say break. Break. So I toss it to the side and I say the word break when he touches his lips. So this way he knows I can't leave the stay until I hear the word break. You can also use release or freedom, any word you want to use. Now we're doing this. What I do at first is you want to do this in sprints throughout the day. And when it comes to dog training, you don't want to train your dog for longer than 3 minutes at a time. Unless something like specific like this, because I want to eventually make him stay in place for 5 minutes. But when we're doing this, I was doing 3-second jumps. Eventually I might do 5-second jumps, and then 10-second jumps, and then 20. Always go based on what the dog can do. If the dog can't do it, then always back up a half step, practice that step a couple times before you start elongating it again. You want to keep doing this, and I would do this with maybe about 8 to 15 treats each practice session. And at first they should be, you just want to get up to a minute. But you want to do it, sprinkle it throughout the day. And again, I mentioned this off camera, dogs don't generalize well. If I always practice the stay right here, he can stay right here like a ninja. He just went outside on his own. He had something he doesn't do. We left a lot of treats out there, which is fine. So this time I do it here. Next time I might sit over there on the little round futon. Then I might do it over here. Then I might do it in the kitchen. I might do it in on the stairs to the upstairs. So we're going to do it in different locations so he understands stay is the act of staying, not staying right here in front of this particular chair. So we want to go until we can get the dog to stay for 5 minutes. Now, my personal preference, if I start with the dog in an LAY, I want the dog to stay in the LAY position. Technically, you don't. They could stay in the location, go from a sit to an up to a down and back and forth as long as they stay in the position. It's a personal preference for the guardian. So once we get up to the point where you can do 5 minutes with the dog staying right there, and the dog's like, this is super easy. I just sit here and look at you and you give me treats in gradually longer periods of time. I'm happy to do that. That's just his igloo. The guardian was pointing to me off camera. So once we get to the point where we can do that, then we're going to start incorporating distance. So we put the dog into a stay, put our hand back and take 1 step. This is my own formula, although you can change it up. So if I put him in a stay, I put my hand here, take 1 step back, and I would count to 2, then take 1 step forward, give him the treat, and say the word stay. Next time I would say stay, and I would take 2 steps back and count to 4, then come back and give him the treat after coming back the 2 steps. So my thing is the number of steps I take, I multiply times 2 for the duration of the wait. But again, that's my own personal thing. You can base it on what your dog can do. Now, first you'll be able to do it with your staying in the room, but once you go out of the dog's eyesight, especially for Griff, I think that's going to be really difficult for him. So when we do this, you want to try to arrange it so you're near a doorway. So if you kind of pan a little bit over here, you can see that this is kind of a doorway. So maybe I'm putting him in a stay, and let's come back to me. I put him in a stay here. He's facing this direction. I step back, step back, step back, step back, and then I just step out of sight just for 1 second. Then I come back and I come back to you and give him the treat. Go to literally 1 second the first time you go out of his sight. If you get to the 5 minutes, he should have the basics of the stay, so he should be able to resist the urge to come and find you. Then you come back or go all the way to him, give him this treat, say stay, and then this time you stay away for 2 seconds. And I usually go by 1 second increments at first, up until I get to about 15 seconds outside the door before I start. Next time I might go to 17 seconds. The idea is to get him used to staying while we're out of his eyesight for progressively longer and longer periods of time. If he can't do it, you move too far, too fast. Now, technology is a great thing for us in a lot of regards. I see some clients, when they start getting outside the line of sight, set up a baby camera or a security camera where they're watching on their iPad. They go in the other room, and you can see the dog, and he's kind of starting to go like this. He's getting ready to get out of his position. So you want to come back before he breaks it. And the idea is to go very slowly. And every dog has his own pace. So don't go at our pace, go at his pace. But the idea is to eventually we get to the point where we can go outside of his line of sight and for 5 minutes and he stays there. So once you get to this point, then what we want to do is, because he has separation anxiety, help him start practicing being alone. So we put him in a stay, and then I go get a drink of water, and I come back and I sit down and then give him the break. And I always use hand signals too. I say this for break, This is for release. You can come up with whatever hand signals you want. Some dogs go deaf later in life, and so it's helpful if you incorporate them at the same time. Just do the hand signal right at the same time you say the command word. Just make sure the dog sees you do it. And make sure they're big movements. I've seen one guy was like, that's way too subtle. So for me, this is down, this is sit, this is lay down, this is heel, so I can make it at a great distance. So you want to use big hand signals. Some people use American Sign Language, which is great as well, but you can use whatever, just be consistent. So once we get to the point where we can get him to stay while we go to the bathroom or go change a clothes of laundry or make a sandwich or whatever it is, now we're helping him practice while we're still home. Dogs with separation anxiety, they freak out if they're not with our presence. They follow us to the bathroom. They follow us everywhere in the house. They're licking our heels everywhere we go. We have to help them practice being alone for gradually, progressively longer and longer periods of time. It's kind of similar to helping a child self-soothe when they're going from nipples and all that fun stuff. So basically, we want to get to the point where, and take note of how far away you can go. Now, first we want to do it to the point where we can get him to stay while we're in the house, the next room, for like up to 15 minutes. Then what we want to do is we want to incorporate ways where we can delay gratification. So if you're playing fetch with him, he is not a fetching dog, but if we're playing fetch, I may throw it, he brings it back, I hold it up and I say sit. Then I make him wait for a second before I throw the ball. Waiting for permission to eat your food in your bowl, waiting for permission to go out the door, things along those lines. That helps the dog develop a little bit more self-control. One of the things I recommend the Guardian is we're in Santa Monica, it's beautiful here all the time, and he's marking. Now marking is different than accents. Marking is the perception that I'm going to go, I don't think there's a lot of leadership here based on what I'm seeing as a dog, so I'm going to mark around the house so if anybody comes in, there's no question that there is somebody in charge. He's thinking it's him. Once we flip the leader-follower dynamic by consistently enforcing rules and boundaries and rewarding him for desired actions and behaviors using positive reinforcement, after a while it'll seem inappropriate for him to mark in the house. Now, while he's doing this, when you have a dog that marks, it's important that we limit their access to the house because they'll mark on things you won't even know that he's marked on it. And then he'll do it more and more, and he gets into a habit of doing those things. So one of the things I recommend is on Quest Ed section of doggonproblems.com, when I raised my puppy, I set up a guest room when I had a puppy playpen lining the wall so he couldn't get to the walls, but vinyl flooring down the floor so if he had an accident, not a big deal. And I filled it full of great enrichment, a lot of toys. So anytime that I put him in there was a lot of fun things for him to do, and I was able to put him in there and then go outside the room, close the door of the bedroom, and go do things in the house. He knows I'm still here, he can hear me, but I can't directly see him. So at first he whimpered a little bit, but then after a while, when I put him in there, he's tired, or he started chewing a bully stick or whatever. After a while, I started to associate being in there as just being a relaxed thing, and there was good stuff to do. So one of the things I recommend the Guardian do is set up a puppy playpen around. We have in the living room, we don't have to pan around, but there's a door to the backyard. And so since it's Santa Monica, we leave it open most of the time. As long, we could leave that open and have the playmate sit, passive training. We can have that arranged so that he could go outside and do business and roughhouse and have a good time. When he comes inside, there's kennels in the playpen, and it's secured to the wall or to the door. We just fasten it somehow. And then, so he can come in and hang out on his own if it rains. Never rains here, but that way he can go in and out at his own discretion. He's going to spend more time going outside, and that's going to cause him to use to go to the bathroom outside, which is something which will help because he right now likes to prefer to go on a walk or in the front yard in the grass. We want him to understand that, hey, this is a good place to go potty as well. But this way, the Guardian can have a little bit more freedom in terms of if she needs to go out to do something, we don't have to rush home because we can leave his water in there. He's got safe protection to come in the house. He can go outside if he needs to do his business, and he has practice being alone. The Guardian should definitely, if she's going to do this, put him in there at times when she's sitting here watching TV. Most of us only put our dog in the kennel when we're about to leave. So the kennel represents leaving. It's very important that we put him in that puppy play area with access to the outside when we're at the house. So the more that you practice with him doing that, where we're in the room watching TV here, or we're reading, or we're cooking in the kitchen, he can hear us inside. He can be inside and kind of see us, or at least hear us and smell us, but he's not next to us all the time. A lot of dogs with separation anxiety, it's going from 0 to 100, or 100 to 0. I'm with a human all the time, and suddenly she leaves the house, now I'm completely by myself. There are also some things we can do to put him in a position to succeed. I talk about this a lot with a lot of things. He likes to go to doggy daycare, correct?
He's never been.
Or he's never been, but he likes playing with other dogs. So what I would do, there's Rover, which is right by the park on Main that you mentioned to me. It's right next to it. I just talked to a client who takes his dog there. He said it's a wonderful place. They actually have a dinner thing. You can drop your dog off at like before 9 o'clock and then pick him up before 1 a.m. So it's really convenient. Well, it's not super convenient, but it's pretty convenient for you. Dogs sleep 17 hours a day. Most people don't realize there's only 6 hours out of every 24-hour period they're awake, and they sprinkle it throughout that period. Well, if you're going to have people come over, if you have a high-energy dog, taking him to doggy daycare for 8 hours, you've eclipsed his 6 hours of being awake. And now when your guests come over, like, your dog is so well behaved, well, yeah, you put him in position to succeed. So if we're going to go to a concert, maybe at the Hollywood Bowl, maybe we take him to doggy daycare during the day. He gets to play with his other buddies that will help with his socialization skills. It burns off a lot of energy because he's not a super high energy dog. When he comes home, we change, pick him up, we change, we do our things. He's kind of lounging in the house. Then we put him in a puppy playroom. We sit down, we spend a couple minutes watching TV, get up maybe, and this is especially for the layout of this house. If you get him used to being in there, you could turn the TV on, get up and just kind of sit down, watch TV, get up, go into your kitchen. Don't leave it on and talk like CNN or definitely not on Fox, but on any of those talk shows because that creates more anxiety. Classical music is the best. So we have like the digital TV, radio, maybe put on classical, go in the kitchen, run the faucet, do a couple things, and then go that way, and then you can go out of the kitchen and go out the front door quietly, and he won't even realize that you're gone. But the key to making this successful is to practice with him being in there with us in here. Most of us think, if I'm with the dog, I should be petting the dog, it should be with me all the time. Well, then that dog goes from the 0 to or from 100 to the 0, and it's too much for them to deal with. So helping your dog practice being alone for progressively longer periods of time and in a safe environment is helpful. Now is happy, healthy, and a great way to go. Now, we could do other things to help him feel more inclined to be in there. Maybe the only time that he gets the bully stick is when he's in there. Marrow bones are very, very desirable. It's a very high value treat for a dog. Now, for his size, I would want to get 1/2 inch or 1 inch marrow bones only. They'll be frozen. Make sure you keep them frozen. You will not want them in your fridge unfrozen. Get 2 or 3 of them when you're going out, and at first you want to put one in there when you're in this room. So the only time that he gets to play with that thing is when he's in his puppy play area, or adult play area in this case. And then when you're going to let him out, you let him out, but don't let him take that bone. The only place I can chew on that marrow bone is in here. And if you've done this enough times, you'll be able to get up to go up and take a shower, and he's in there chewing on that thing and having a good old time. Eventually, he gets enough practice in there where he'll stay in there. Okay, this started out as a video about teaching the dog to stay, which we went through duration and for distance. Eventually, once you have distance, then you want to break in distractions. So maybe we have a dog barking on the TV, we have a neighbor that's doing some construction, we have some people in the next room. We want to help recreate real-world situations, but doing it very, very progressively, very gradually, until he can stay under any circumstance. But once he does that, make sure you utilize that. Put him in a stay, go to the next room, and then come back and release him. Make sure you always throw the treat to the side and say break or release so that he understands once I'm in a stay, I'm not allowed to auto-release. So this is a video about how you can teach your dog to stay, along with some bonus tips on helping a dog that might have separation anxiety.